How's it going, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are doing another RosterMania reaction. You guys have been loving the videos. You've been showing so much support, which I greatly appreciate it. You guys have been unbelievable, and we're only going to continue to do more of these. I can promise you that. We're going to try to provide as much information, as many updates, opinionated content as we can, and so we are moving right along. RosterMania, while it may have slowed down for the moment, I think we are reaching a very interesting period where things are going to slow down just for a moment leading up until Christmas, and then right after is where I think all hell really will break loose. So if you guys have not done so already, make sure to subscribe, make sure to like this video, as we're now on the road to 8K subs. I was talking the last video, I was like, we're on the road to 7K. You guys instantly passed that. We'll see if maybe we can reach 8K maybe by the new year, maybe even more, who knows. But let's go ahead and get into this. So what I'm going to be doing today is, like I said, a bit of a recap. We're going to go through every single team and talk about their current situation, where everything sits, as well as go over a lot of the updated information from the last video from where we left off. So, like I said, we're going to go team by team, talk about everything, and we will start things off with the LA Thieves. Again, it's kind of a fun way to start because I don't think anything's going to be happening with the LA Thieves. It just feels like right now for this roster, there's really nothing going on. There's no, rumors. Is there potential for a pipeline type of move where it's like, a better player becomes available? Sure. I don't think the LA Thieves had the best placement at the first event, for them, obviously, right? They're trying to go back to back to back. Those plans get spoiled, but I just don't think for the Thieves a change right now is something that you are thinking about. Moving on to our next roster, I know these are all out of order, but Las Vegas Legion, another team that I think is not going to be involved in roster changes. I mean, I don't think that they're necessarily like the sellers or the buyers as of this moment. I think if you are really the Legion franchise, you're kind of stoked with how things went. Like, you're pretty cool with the fact that, you beat some solid teams at Major 1. You had one of your best placements that you've had in a very long time. It felt like Pro Loot and TJ both had their moments, and while certain game modes may not look strong, their S&D looks impeccable. So if you can build upon that, the only way that I think that Legion could be involved in RosterMania is just simply if like a pipeline or a ripple effect starts to come through, Legion franchise maybe realizes, hey, this guy, we cannot pass up on him. Maybe he doesn't have any other options. You don't want to allow for this guy to slip out of your hands. Maybe they would make a move then. But I don't think that they'll be by any means first, if not second in line either, when it comes down to changes. Next team, OpTic Texas, right? This is where all the information, all the juicy stuff is coming from right now. You guys can see the players that we have highlighted in red are the ones that are on major watch right now. And I guess when we talk about OpTic Texas, that leads us into talking about Seattle. It leads us into talking about the LA Guerrillas, given the rumored roster for OpTic Texas just a few days ago with Shotzi, Scump, it was PRED, and Arcities. There's been a few updates talking about how, maybe for LAG, Arcities may not be coming to OpTic Texas. We've even seen a few players like Diamond Khan, who was supposed to be going from the LAG Academy team into the LAG starting roster, is also talking about how he's looking for challenger teammates. So it feels like things may have slowed down for the moment on Arcities maybe joining OpTic Texas. But at the same time, we did see DASHY, I think it was yesterday, stream for a little while. There's a bunch of sound bites that have come out, and really all it is just him essentially saying, yeah, I knew it was going to happen at some point type deal. So it does feel like from his point of view, he knows things aren't going well. It's not going to be a return to OpTic Texas. It sounds like from his POV, and to be honest with you, if I am OpTic Texas, this is not the time to run it back. I don't think that this roster decides for the second, third time, however many times it's been, to be like, you know what? Nobody's available. Let's just do this again. Right? I think that they have very rapidly learned, considering the fact that they decided to keep the team after dropping Illy and DASHY, coming into MW2. We run into one event. They finish top 12, and both of them are already on the clock. Both of them are already in the rumor mill for all kinds of different dealings and trades and stuff like that. So, is there a chance that I think we could see Illy return? I do. I think there is a chance for it. I always felt like there was a chance, but I think yesterday, even given the fact that Arcities may not be on the table, we'll continue to figure out what goes on with that. I still think that DASHY very much stands a chance of not being on this OpTic Texas team. I would say that I am very confident, I would say, given the outlook, that OpTic still does make a move. We'll see what that move could be. And if we're speculating early, like let's say that DASHY is 100% out of the picture, there's been a lot of talk about, who could be added, which leads us into Seattle Surge as well. So we'll kind of talk about both these teams in tandem together. If RCs isn't on the table anymore necessarily, or let's say that those conversations have slowed down, what that could mean is for OpTic Texas, maybe they were trying to trade some pieces. LAG says no, or whatever, the case may be. And so if you're OpTic, it's like, okay, well, LAG doesn't really want to work with us right now. How about we go all in on PRED? Again, that is pure speculation. However, that could be what's going on. And so in this case, that could allow for a trade to maybe go down DASHY for PRED. It could just simply be that PRED comes over to OpTic, DASHY goes somewhere else, maybe Illy goes somewhere else, et cetera, et cetera. But again, and I know you guys have been talking a lot in the comments about this, how do the roles work? Which is very interesting, because if PRED does join this team, as he was rumored to just a few days ago, how do you have 3 SMGs on the roster? Undoubtedly, to me, it would be Scump going back to the flex role. And I say going back because he did that very early on in his career. I know that he was a very big fan of the M4 to kick off MW2. And to be honest, I just think it actually could be a really good role for him. I think stylistically, from an on-paper POV, I think that PRED and Shotzi actually could be a pretty decent duo together. I say pretty decent in terms of the roles, in terms of early teamwork. We know the talent is undoubtedly one of the best, if not the best SMG duo in the league. But I mean, stylistically wise, there is going to have to be some bit of adaptability between both of those guys to make it work. So again, I think that Scump would then switch to the flex if PRED does come over to OpTic Texas. So, like I said, I believe that OpTic is working hardcore on the PRED move. It sounded like earlier on it was going to be Arcety's first and then PRED after. I think if you're OpTic right now, if things have slowed down with LAG, which it sounds like they have, it doesn't mean that there isn't a move that could happen. It just sounds like maybe things have stalled out for a while. We've yet to hear a ton on the Seattle front with things. So I think that OpTic are calling. I think OpTic are interested. And maybe with LAG out of the picture, it could make things a little easier to focus all of your attention on Seattle Surge. And we've heard, a ton of different things. I think CDL Scrim Intel or a few others have made note that Seattle Surge, the replacements for PRED could be somebody like Wardy, who is here on the New York Subliners bench. It could be Johnny, who was part of Paris Legion last season for a little while and had, some good moments online and maybe even on LAN as well. So regardless, I think that there is definitely a change that is going to happen with OpTic Texas as an update, right? If we are going to make an update, have things slow down a little bit for them? Yes, but considering how Dashy's talking last night, I think for sure there is a move that's going to be made. I think OpTic is focusing everything on Seattle, if I had to guess. And if not, maybe they're looking elsewhere, right? We saw Beans tweeting out something interesting a few days ago, or maybe it was yesterday, talking about how life hits you fast. Maybe he's getting an opportunity on Boston. Maybe OpTic's inquiring about him. Again, you have to keep all options open. And I would say for sure, keep options open or keep your eyes open for AR players, because that is exactly what OpTic is going to need. If they're eyeing up somebody like PRED, if Dashy's going to be out of the picture, if Illy maybe is going to be out of the picture, what does that leave? It leaves some TAC players that you're going to need to see added onto the roster. So that's where conversations will sit. I would be shocked if OpTic Texas rolls with this same team moving into Major 2. I think that is without question not going to happen. And for Seattle Surge, we will see what happens with them as well, as who knows, maybe their Aussie superstar could be on the move. Maybe we've seen PRED wear his last Seattle Surge jersey. That's not really the right way to say it. Maybe we've seen PRED play his last series under the Seattle Surge franchise. Oh man, I just had to cut the video for a moment for a nice little coughing fit. Hopefully you guys are staying safe, staying healthy out there. Make sure to be careful. That's without a doubt. Things are getting cold out there. It's like negative temperatures in every single part of the United States right now. We'll move on to the Toronto Ultra. Speaking of cold, we'll move on to this team. And to be honest, I think it's going to remain the same. I don't see a whole lot happening with Toronto Ultra. I don't see a single thing happening with this Ultra team. First event together, they had some great moments. They go on a nice little winning spree from the Major 1 qualifiers into Major 1. It feels like you have got a great great little duo going on between Standy and Scrappy right now. I think there is a lot to like about this young Toronto team. I think that this roster is hungry. And so I just don't see a world in which Toronto ends up changing the team at all. I really don't. So we'll go ahead and move on to Atlanta FaZe. I think that there is potential. And this really all resides on, to me, OpTic Texas. It does. Like, there's been a lot of talk about, in previous coming into MW2, imagine if, right, when Aristides ends up leaving Atlanta FaZe, or Atlanta FaZe sends him over to LAG, they get Slasher in return. Before we knew that Slasher was going to be here, there was a lot of speculation about what if DASHY went to this team, right? What if DASHY, Celium, Simp, and Abizi all were on the same roster? So I think that there is a level to it. It just feels like there's a few comments of people talking about it, and it's understandably so, right? Atlanta FaZe, last season, constant second place finishes. They're coming into Major 1 expecting a W, and they get third place. Is this going to be a team that, just is consistently out of the running? Are they no longer that same Atlanta FaZe anymore? I think it's fair to say that they are not that team is going to win everything like they were in Cold War. But the runoff of what happens next, I think, is still up for grabs. So do I think there's a chance for Atlanta to make a move? I do. I think if we are looking at OpTic Texas, it just doesn't really feel like DASHY would be the right fit. Honestly, I feel like if there was a right fit, it could be Illy. Just given roles, I think you'd switch Celium to a main, Illy to a flex. You've got some great chemistry there, obviously, with Simp and Celium previously. The same thing can be said for DASHY. All these guys used to play like S&D tourneys with each other. I used to cast over all of them when they were like 14 years old. So a lot of chem there, a lot of history there. I just don't see Atlanta FaZe making a move. I think they're pretty solid to stay. But again, you just don't know. Like, you really don't. There was a lot of crazy things that happened leading into MW2, and it very well could be the same case heading into the new year. Boston Breach. So again, it's kind of a weird scenario. I don't think that we see Boston Breach making any changes. But we did see that interesting tweet coming from Beans discussing about how, life hits you fast or whatever. I forget exactly what the tweet was. Essentially what he posted was something along the lines of like, hey, something could be happening. Now, is it very likely that it could be bait? 100%, right? Did Beans already just get us in his rookie season? Yeah, he probably did. But I do think that there is a chance, right? Because he subs in for Awakening, as I think Awakening got sick at Major 1. Actually, there was a lot of matches going on, so I didn't even see what happened. But just with that little murmur, like, you wonder if maybe Beans could be a hot commodity to a team like LAG, maybe to a London Royal Ravens. We'll talk about them in a moment, as Paul X could be on the way out of the starting lineup. We're already hearing some word about Wardy to Seattle. It wouldn't shock me at all if somebody's trying to make a move for Beans as well. So, something to keep in mind. I think that Boston, for the most part, should be safe. I don't see moves being made. At the same time, though, they did not have a great major at all, right? They're one of the teams that didn't even make it to the bracket stage. A very disappointing finish for them, considering how their season started off. They look like one of the best teams in the league. And then now that the M4 meta is no longer with us, it feels like they look human. And so a top 16 finish is not going to be something that you're excited about. So who knows? Something could be happening with Boston. However, I don't foresee it occurring. I'll move on to Florida Mutineers. Not a whole lot of talk about this team. It feels like in general, Florida is more of a quieter roster, right? I mean, they had that great moment, right? Beating OpTic Texas, getting their revenge versus them. I feel like their S&D, as we all know, is going to be elite. Like, we saw some great moments. Like, I feel like Havoc really erupted at times. Brack had his come out party, especially after getting his body shot versus OpTic Texas. So, like, do I think that you're thrilled if you're Florida? No, right? Obviously, you're not going to be thrilled. At the same time, you finished top 8. You had some good moments. You had some not so good moments. It just feels like if Florida does make a move, it's more of a runoff scenario where a player, like I said, becomes available. They then latch onto that guy, get rid of somebody else, etc. But I don't see Florida necessarily being buyers. And it's just like, it kind of feels like a team that's just really happy to be together. Like, we were hearing Brack and Major Maniac talking like a few different interviews. Like, we don't even have roles. Like, there isn't actually a flex or main AR for the team. It's just, if you spawn up and you want to fill that gap, you're going to do it. Vikal and Havoc feel like the same player at times. Brack and Major Maniac, again, it's hard to figure out at times who really is the flex versus who's the main AR. So, a weird situation. Florida, could they be a buyer? Could they be a team that makes a move? Yes, it just, again, does not feel likely. This middle row feels like they are going to stay intact. But, you know, there is rumors that it could be 5 teams who make moves. Right now we've heard it sounds like 4 teams could be in that conversation. Who could be the 5th team? Who knows? Maybe it's Florida. Maybe it's one of these 4 teams in the center. Let's move down, though, to LAG, because LAG has not just got rumors of players going elsewhere. It sounds like a lot of internal things going on with them as well. Right? We've heard the earlier comments about, Arcety's leaving for OpTic Texas. Then we get the news, that rumored tweet coming in from CDL Intel Scrims, basically discussing about how it sounds like the Academy team could be jumping in to join alongside of Hook. That was what led to our prior video discussing, hey, this could be further confirmation that Arcety's is joining OpTic Texas. I know since then there's been another tweet coming in from CDL Scrim Intel saying, hey, this may not be the roster anymore. Things do change. And that's not a surprise, obviously, if things have slowed down with OpTic Texas. If you're LAG, you want to keep Arcety's in this lineup, and maybe they want to keep Hook as well. Diamond Con, who was supposed to be, in that rumored lineup, since has tweeted, I think it was actually in reply to Neptune, about how, any challenger, teammates available, which is kind of strange because shouldn't they just be on the Academy team? It's a little weird right now. It feels like for LAG, kind of chaos is going down, which is to be expected. It is to be expected considering, the LAG finishes top 12, their Academy team. Well, they didn't finish better necessarily. I think they actually got the same placement. Did look very good. I will say that I am a little surprised that we're not hearing a little bit more love from Exceed. That's really the only player that I'm surprised we haven't heard a lot about. If I was a betting man, right, I think that it's either Arcety's in the main AR alongside of Hook. Then you bring in either a Diamond or an Assault. And then, again, maybe a Joe Deceives alongside of Hook would be my guess. And the last thing I'll say about the Guerrillas is that I just think that the end by no means is near. Like, we're talking about OpTic Texas, do they just bring back the same team? Does LAG kind of do that, if you will? I really don't think so. I think without question, there was at least 1, if not 2 roster changes that are made from LAG. It does get a little worrisome because I feel like if you're Arcety's, you came to this roster, you came to this franchise. I don't think trying to rebuild, and after the first event, you're already doing that. You're bringing out challenger players, into the lineup. Granted, very talented challenger players at that. I just think that he wants to play along guys who have got not just experience, because if you bring in Assault, Diamond Con, those guys have experience, but I think he is looking to try and contend and instantly dipping into your Challengers Academy team after the placement that you've had, all of this stuff. It just doesn't seem like maybe this is going the way that I'm sure Arcety's would have envisioned for it to go. So do I think there was still a chance that he ends up elsewhere? 100%. But the fact that conversations have slowed down a bit does make you worried a little bit, maybe for his and LAG's future together. We'll jump on now to the London Royal Ravens. We have heard a few reports. I forget exactly who tweeted it out first. It might have been Jacob Hale, who reported the fact that it does seem like Scraps is going to be returning back to the CDL. He has been on the London Royal Ravens bench during this during this season. He was actually great. I was over at the side stations, actually during London's tiebreaker match with the LA Thieves. He was behind him the whole time. He was hyping him up. He was getting him involved. I feel like he was even part of the coaching staff at a few different moments. So, it is without a doubt an interesting move, right? You have somebody who has not really competed in the CDL for the past few seasons, I should say since Vanguard. And now the fact that he's returning to London and the fact that he's getting a starting position after the first event, it does make you wonder how this team's going to perform. How is Scraps going to perform? But the fact that Paul X is out, I don't feel like he was really playing bad. But if you are London, you went on a great little, streak to kick off week 1. And then from there, you just haven't won matches. It's plain as that. So not a surprise to see the Ravens make a move. Am I surprised to see Scraps getting the call? I am, but we'll see what happens. That's really all that I know to say right now about the Royal Ravens. New York Subliners, they're not going to make a change, right? They're not going to make a change. They're off of the W. Team looks great. Everybody looked amazing. I think right now Kismet is the all around best player after the first event, in terms of what he's able to do, communication, in-game, his impact and damage, his impact on the objective, just his consistency, his pace, what he does for the team, all of those things all the way around. I think that Kismet is the best all-around player that we have right now in the game. Hydra had his pop-off moments, obviously. Priesta and Skies, the new additions, looked fantastic in their debuts on land with the Subliners. no changes being made when it comes down to the starting lineup. The only thing that could involve New York is Wardy, as we've heard his name potentially attached to a team like Seattle. And we'll move on to the Minnesota ROKKR. Kind of a questionable one for me. Maybe that fifth mystery team that we've been talking about throughout this video. You know, again, high expectations for this roster considering the moves that they made during the offseason, right? They bring back Attach. They add in Afro. They bring in Bance and Cammy from Toronto. And they just kind of fell flat. Like, it's not at all the placement that you'd expect for this team. I feel like a lot of people either rated them very high or thought, you know what, these were not the right players to take a risk on. I was very delighted to see how well Afro has played. I've gone on multiple occasions saying that I think Afro has top 5 player in the game potential, and he already looks like one of the best SMGs in the game, undoubtedly. A little bit of a slower performance, I think, from Bance and Cammy. I know there's a lot of high expectations, again, for Cammy, what he would be able to do for the team. It's the first event. You don't really know. However, considering how great that they looked in the qualifiers and then going to LAN, it feels like typical Minnesota ROKKR. And to be honest, we're kind of already putting them, like, we moved them a page back, like in terms of how much that we're going to talk about them, in terms of the expectations. We've already been like, again, ROKKR? Like, again? Really? So do I think that ROKKR has the potential to make a move going into Major 2? Yes. However, I would be surprised if they did. I just don't see this team really getting involved in those decisions. We'll see what ends up taking place. To be honest, I guess I just don't see it occurring, but you never take anything out of the realm of possibility. You know, they've got some players in the academy team. Maybe this could be the destination for somebody like Beans. You've already got some AR players here, or rather, you've already got some EU players here. Maybe you bring him over. Maybe that's what LAG's thinking too. A lot of possibility, a lot of moves that could be made. Maybe they're one of those teams that ends up grabbing, you know, somebody from a roster change or in a desperate situation. It's like if a player's available, hey, you know what? Let's just go ahead and grab this guy, plug him in, see how it works. It's worth taking the risk. It could be an Illy. It could be a Dashy. Again, it could be anybody off of this list, considering how crazy the RosterMania very well could end up. But guys, that's going to do it for this video. I know it was a little bit of a longer one. However, we had a lot of explaining to do, a lot to set up, and what I imagine will be a pretty interesting RosterMania post-Christmas. We'll see if anything ends up happening today. If it does, you will see a video coming in from me. If you have not done so already, make sure to like this video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. More RosterMania reaction videos to come. There is no doubt about it. Things are about to pick up, and you do not want to miss out on all of the action. But that's going to do it for myself. Thank you so much for checking out these videos. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take it easy, and I'll see you back on the channel very soon.